Hey, this is Gerrel with Numa Gallery here with Isis Jones at the Kiss FM radio station. How are you?
Blessed and highly favored as
You
always.
look blessed and highly favored as always. Listen, we're going to be talking about social norms. As you know, that is our emphasis. We're putting the neighbor back in neighborhood. May 19th, I want to remind you that May 19th will be at True Love Church from 10 o'clock a.m. to 2 p.m. having a putting the neighbor back in neighborhood community mixer where we're going to teach people how to change their social norms and how to better their community. We'll be having free food. The Foundry has sponsored the food. We're going to have Jamaria Moore and Danny Carr is going to come out and speak with us about changing social norms. I'll be talking, and ain't no telling who else might show up. Isis might show up herself out there. But we're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to have a lot of education, and we're going to give away $1,000 gift prize. Remember, $1,000 gift prize to whoever uploads the video between now and May 18th, midnight May 18th, and gets the most likes for their video of neighborly activity. If you're in the Inslee area, you'll have to have an Inslee address, an ID with the Inslee address, right? Because that's where we're going to start. We're going to start on the west side because the west side is the best side.
All day.
And we're going to try to take over the rest of the city with this thing, right? Changing social norms and making our community better. Today we want to discuss changing social norms with Isis. We've had some real good conversations about some of the things that need to change. You want to just kind of flow a little bit about?
Well, I guess I thank you because you really have put a lot on my mind, especially with your initiative and your program about being instrumental. We laughed about this earlier about how I posted something up about everybody wants to talk about Wakanda forever, but you don't even know your neighbor.
Okay.
So,
I'm talking about Wakanda.
We talk about Wakanda.
Who next door?
Do you know your neighbor? And it's funny when I posed that question, a lot of folks came back with the whole, well, I don't, they just that, and the third. I'm kind of like, well, that's half the problem. Because we don't know our neighbors. We kind of get a hands out approach.
I call it siloism. I actually have a word for
Wow.
it because people live in silos.
True.
And so we feel like we're only responsible for our yard, our front yard, our back yard. So we get our burglar bars and we get our and I'm not saying that you shouldn't keep yourself safe.
Right.
What I'm saying is that if we choose only to be concerned with our four walls, our four and no more, then what's going on across the street or down the street is going to at some point affect you. And that's what we've been experiencing. So we started over here on the west side because we have, I live in Inslee Highlands, and we had 4 homicides in Inslee Highlands, one of the 99 neighborhoods, and it was the highest rate. It was the highest number of homicides. And it looks like a quiet little neighborhood, but it had 4 homicides. We had 111 homicides across the city of Birmingham and like 170 across Jefferson County, right? So we're in crisis.
Right.
And so there's no task force that's going to solve that because we've seen task
Nobody's
force
coming
before.
to save you.
We've seen that before. Get tough on crime. We've seen that before. That is not what the problem is. The problem is that we are producing this type of element. And so we can stop producing it if we change the way that we interact with each other, and that's what changing social norms is about. One of the social norms that I would like to talk about, since you mentioned that thing about knowing your neighbor.
Because you actually have made me a lot more conscious about making sure that I'm aware. My immediate neighbors, next door to left and right, I definitely know at least about 4 or 5 people in my apartment complex, but I would want to know the whole building and have them know me as well.
So let me tell you what I did. When I first moved to Springville, Alabama, Springville is a population of about 2,500. Now, I live in Inslee now, but when I first moved back to Alabama, I moved to Springville. And I said, Facebook was out. And so I said, I'm going to friend everybody in the city of Springville.
Okay.
Now, I went to church, I went to the store, right? And I actually, this was odd, right? Because, there ain't a whole bunch of black folks.
In Springville, now that you mentioned it, I'm it might be a limited supply. It might be a limited
And it wasn't
supply.
even a city in a small town in crisis. It was just the idea that I'm going to be here with these people and we're going to be interacting with each other. And I should know that. I'm saying that, maybe one of the ways that we change the social norm of siloism is that people, I've suggested this before, get to know your neighbor. Just, if you got to, make a business card. I've said this, just like I created the event, me and several others, put their input in. And True Love Church is a major part of that. Want to make sure I shout out True Love Church. Major help to create an event where we can pull people in. Why would people not do that in their own communities? I mean, we got barbecues, we set up block parties, but you can just invite your neighbors to dinner or to go bowling.
Right.
That's an idea that needs to be implemented, I think, in our communities, in our mentality to change the mentality of siloism.
Right, and because that was actually a question that I asked Gerrel earlier. Is like, how do you engage? How do you pose the question? Because sometimes we kind of like we build it up to be a lot bigger
exactly
than it needs to be. You're trying to figure out, okay, how can I speak? What kind of speech do I have? And it's simply just being yourself, and also just inviting your folks out. Just like you said, whether it be dinner or whether it be out to bowling or some type of other activity that people kind of engage in. So it's just kind of like being yourself, but kind of like to the 10th power. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense because it does mean stepping outside of the box. And I've said that the city of Birmingham is in crisis, and crisis
means that you have to take an extra step, and better yet, if it's in crisis mode, if your house is burning down, you're not just going to sit outside and just watch it burn. You're actually going to get involved. You're going to call somebody. You're going to be active about it and changing the situation. So why not be as as proactive instead of being reactionary? And unfortunately, we're at a really big part where everybody wants to, like, I'll use the example of Starbucks right now.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that briefly, and how everybody has their filter and they're looking at it in their own lens. But what kind of gets me is that, again, we're not really engaging. You can post all kind of stuff all day, but what are you actively doing to sit here and cause a conversation?
Right.
And it ain't nothing but a conversation.
That's it.
Because I remember that there was a young man that was on the post that I put out about Wakanda. Was kind of like, well, my neighbors are rowdy and they this, that. And the thing I liked you said earlier was that we tend to be reactionary. Instead of when that system moves in across the street, introducing yourself immediately, you want to wait till there's actually a problem to make any announcements. And then you don't want to snitch on folks. You know, so you have to pick your poison. It's like, okay, are you going to be proactive or are you going to be reactionary? How do you live your life? And I choose to live my life in a proactive climate. And it's just as you said, with us being in crisis, why would that not elicit you to sit here and change your behavior too? Because you can't change other people. If you know how hard it is to change yourself, you know how difficult it is to change other people.
Right.
So the place that you do have to start off with is yourself.
First. Right. You start off with yourself, and I like the idea that oh man, it's slipping my. It was running through my head when you. Maybe I'll come back to it. But here's a point that I do want to make about being proactive. We talked about how the young man said that the neighbors are such and such, and I said that, well, don't start with confrontation. If we
I can't go over to my neighbors talking about the kids.
No, you can't go over to, you got them bad kids. Oh, you need to get that dog out there. You get that car out of the yard. If you start like that.
Because think about how much you don't like people coming at you sideways.
No.
So why would you put yourself in a position to get cussed out by somebody?
Exactly. And the thing about it is that what we permit, and I've said this continually, this is a phrase you need to catch on to. What you allow, you condone. Right. So
if you allow folks tearing up the neighborhood, then
they're gonna tear up. They believe it's okay. If they see other folks done this, and see, now we're at a situation where it's the norm we call it the hood, right? We don't even call it neighborhood anymore, and that's the emphasis of putting the neighbor back in neighborhood, so that the people are important. So now what you want to do is, instead of introducing yourself with a confrontation, introduce yourself with a gift that you bring. Everybody loves it to, what I'm saying? Listen, you call up the radio station so you can get them free tickets.
I can't bring no Hennessy over there.
Well, I don't know. You might want to bring some Hennessy. Everybody ain't alcoholic. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, but hey, ribs, I go fishing a lot. Mm-hmm. And so when I catch an abundance of fish, right, and I don't want to clean them, I take them to my neighbor. Yeah. Now, there's a neighbor that I take fish to. I ain't never been in their house, but they know me. They know what I'm about. Mm-hmm. I know them. If something happens at my house, they right on top of it, right? They let me know, and so on and so forth. So, they're an elderly couple. I don't really expect to go sit in, but the point is that I had to make the introductions. Nobody came to introduce themselves to me. I had to be proactive about it, and I didn't go and tell them, hey, yo, you know that dog is on too short a leash, right? I just start feeding the dog, right? You know, I start feeding the dog. I start walking the dog. You know what I'm saying? I'm you know, just going to do what I can to help them see that somebody is concerned about them and their welfare. And then, you know, there'll come a time when I'll confront them about some stuff, right? You know, but the point is that
It's just making contact and making and communicating
relationship.
with people,
When
right.
people know that you love them or care about them, then you can motivate them. When people don't, and we talked about churches. What do you want to say about you?
Okay.
I love church, love Jesus.
I love
amen.
church and I love Jesus too, but some of y'all are doing
Wow.
entirely too much. Okay, because how do you have 5 churches within a block? No, literally a block of each other, and your neighborhood still looks like pure D
Okay.
hell. That to me is sad. And I'm not trying to, throw shade, but I just want to kind of throw this out here right quick.
Just something to think about.
It's something to think about. It's like everybody want to complain about Highlands coming into the community, but Highlands comes in and cleans up.
Wow.
And y'all are in the neighborhood and ain't doing nothing. And then want to sit here and talk about how the white man's in here and hurting and pillaging. I'm like, no,
Ooh, she in raw form.
no. We don't do that, because we're not victims. I don't give a damn what nobody says. If you have a job and if you're paying taxes, you're not a victim. Okay. So therefore, you are responsible for the 4 walls around you as well as the neighborhood and the block around you as well. And if you are not a good steward of that, I hold you in high charge, especially if you're a church, that you are out of order.
Okay. So one of the things that I have talked about, and I've been called a church basher, believe it or not, by some people. Right, but I don't. I just believe.
I mean,
that,
look. We only say what God loves.
Well, here's the thing: is that if the power of God is alive in me, that's the same power that created the universe and raised the dead, and so on and so forth. And I'm saying that it's alive in me, and I can't impact my street. I'm thinking that there's probably something wrong with my understanding. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with God. I'm thinking that there's probably. So if I got a church, 5, like you said, 5 churches, it's always frustrated me that you could have 5 big beautiful church buildings in a blighted area, and the people are going to the churches, but they're not dealing with it. And then the pastor will turn to his neighbor.
Turn to your neighbor.
Yeah, and you don't know them folks.
Or better yet, and here's the thing. I'm sorry, I'll get this out real quick. Don't turn to me, and then it's kind of like you can't even sit here and speak to me when I sit down, but now you want to turn to me and sit here and give me a word from pastor. Stop, okay? At least smile and be Gentile. You were in church. I know you could bring in your own issues. You know what? I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
But the point being again.
Yeah, but the idea is that if you believe that the power of God in you, and we make light of that stuff, but it becomes
all things are possible.
Yeah, it's a serious thing, because now what we've got kids dying, and you know this, you watch the news. We've got probably, I would say, and this is not a condemnation, but I know that there are too many single parents having to raise their children that were born outside of relationships that were consistent. I won't even say marriage.
Right.
I would just say
Right.
born outside of consistent relationships. And so these kids are growing up without the opportunity to see
both parents, and then on top of that, a healthy relationship. A lot of us are continuing cycles, and better yet, continuing generational curses through the way that we raise our children, through the way that we sit here and interact with other people, and then wonder why we catching all type of hell.
Right. And so that social norm that we've accepted that it's okay to just go make babies.
It's
because,
killing us.
Yeah.
It's literally killing us.
Yeah. I wanna kind of put you on the spot here, because you're you work at a radio station. You're a big radio personality. You're famous. Yeah, you're famous around here. Right. You're famous up in the ham, dog. You got your game tight. All right. So, music as a social norm. Now, I listen to 98.7.
Okay.
But I know you have a sister station. I'm not gonna ask you to say anything about it, right? But music. Do you believe that music is an inspiration to shapes culture?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll take it. I'll begin at the beginning. If in fact, Lucifer was the
Minister of
minister of music, it has a powerful effect. good, bad, or indifferent. Just like you know that a lot of folks, you know, in the church will not sit there and play any secular music because you know how it influences. And again, if you don't have anything to counteract that at the house as far as a positive image, we've come down this road a long way. I mean, I think it's been going on since the beginning of time.
Sure it has.
The blues, you know, all these different, you know, R&B and everything, James Brown and the rest of them. I mean, rock and roll.
Yeah.
But I think it's been taken to again another level. I'm a big Wu-Tang fan, but I still know that they're misogynistic in a lot of ways
Yeah.
that they kind of approach women, and the way that we kind of see ourselves. Well, I'm a bad bitch, or I'm this, that, and the third. It influences how we basically see each other and how we basically interact with one another. I hate to say that, and then the misogynistic attitude of the music and hip hop. Sorry. Again, it can be used for influence. It could be like shoot, Kendrick just got a Pulitzer Prize for his album Damn, and justifiably so, because the messages again were representations of again where we are in reality,
Right.
and where our communities are, but more importantly, giving you a base of again realizing that you're not a victim. And it seems to me in a lot of this stuff, it's kind of like, I don't listen to it as much anymore. I'm not in that lifestyle. I have to thank my days, have today's kids for allowing me to grow up, because I had to get away from it to a certain degree because I don't find any substance in it. I don't find anything that uplifts me. Don't get me wrong. There's certain songs I'm like, yeah. And in the beat, because we're drum people. So we're already might get attached to it.
Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever. Mhm. But the point being, again, is just that it's like you have to balance that out. And a lot of people, this is the only thing that you have on the radio or you're coming out of your stereos 24/7. And then again, you're wondering why, you're more apt to sit here and do certain things because there's an influence in that. And unfortunately, a lot of us don't understand that, don't choose to counteract it, don't choose to counteract the messages that are being said to us. And even as a woman, sometimes I'm kind of like, okay, I don't know, like for instance, one song, what was it? It was used to be in the club. Wasn't it? There's some hoes in this house. There's some hoes.
Oh my God!
I promise you,
Nice.
it's a club song and it's an old one. But the funny thing about it, as soon as it started playing back in the day, I stopped dancing. And that was something that was instilled with me, my father. My father made it very specific coming up that I was a young woman. There were certain things I just didn't do. Twerking, dropping it, don't get me wrong, I got a little couple drops in there. but the point being again was just the fact that I'm not a hoe.
Yeah.
And hoes dance to that. Because if he's saying there's some hoes in this house, and I'm just kind of like, I'm not a hoe. And I mean, I would stop on site and would walk off the dance floor, and people were kind of like, well, "What's wrong with you?" I'm kind of like, "I'm not a hoe," And it would kind of freak some of my friends out a little bit that I would take something so literally, but that's
because
the
they're
message.
thinking of it as just
it's a song, and I'm like,
well, the idea is that we permit that we allow it. It's entertainment.
It's okay. It's a song.
Now,
we just having fun. I'm like,
I've got a lot to say about what we entertain ourselves with, but I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because here's the truth: is that I love music, right? And I was raised, loving music, and the music that my father listened to was the OJs and the Ohio Players, Isaac Hayes,
I'm just saying, balance that thing out.
But here's the thing: is that if you go back and you can go back to 1959 and you listen to Joe Tex, right? Joe Tex saying "I Got You." Now, when I listen to the lyrics of that song, it sounds like Joe is saying he finna rape somebody. Thought you got away from it, didn't you? Okay, now, so this isn't a new. My point is that this isn't a new norm.
It's nothing new, right?
This isn't a new norm, and I'm glad you mentioned that theological principle of Jesus of Lucifer being the minister of music in heaven, and relating that to the impact that music has. I like this fairy tale called the Pied Piper. You familiar with that? So the Pied Piper.
Kelly. I'm sorry, I just had to get that out real quick.
so the Pied Piper was they jilted him. He was supposed to come in and play his music, and
they didn't give his money.
The rats would come out of town. They didn't give his money, right? So then he comes back and he pipes the children. Okay, so now when I was a kid, right, I was 12 years old, and I was living in Columbus, Georgia, and Teddy Pendergrass was selling out women's only concerts. And they would have to clean up dozens upon dozens of bras and panties, right? You know what I'm saying? After the concert, he was selling out women's only concert, and the songs would be things like "Close the door, let me give you what you've been waiting for."
Right.
Okay, now I'm 12 years old. Not just that, we can go back to 1977 and "Ow, she's a brick house." She's okay. So I mean, again. That song was a very popular song, but very clearly it objectifies women. Right. Okay. So these philosophies, and then I remember as a young boy, you know, the idea was that you had to have a lot of girlfriends.
And the songs only kind of, you know, help to intensify that.
Right. And so you got children now walking around the house singing Percocet, Molly Percocet. Okay, so now ain't nobody thought about never chase up.
Now I got that part.
So
that's my part of the song. I was like, mine is the Percocet.
So my thing is that you know, if we feed these, now people go to church and they'll say that, you know, faith come by hearing and hearing by the word of God. Well, the idea is that the more you hear, faith also comes by hearing other stuff too. You put your confidence in other stuff. I know kids that, you know, now because they got a GAT or Draco or whatever it is, they heard the new label for a gun on it. Now I met a kid the other day, 17 years old, weighed 127 pounds. He, you know what I'm saying, but he got a pistol. And so he's tough as they come. Ain't nobody finna mess with him. And that whole idea of being hard. All right, so my point is this, is that we have got to become less permissive in all the areas of our lives. You know, me, you, and anybody else. And then we got to become proactive in trying to create healthy relationships. Yes, it does mean a change from what we've been in the past. But I also think that if we're going to have a change from what we've received, what we've gotten in the past, which is homicides, robberies, young black people being shot to death or killed too early, pregnancies too early, just broken communities. Then
you got a lot of hurt people out here, and I think, what you were saying in the sense of just kind of setting a new standard. We don't have, Dr. King here anymore to help us kind of navigate some of this stuff. And sometimes you have to be, like, as Gandhi said, the change you wish to see in the world.
Yes.
And if that starts with that aspect, we love Gandhi. Yeah. But it's a point of also just kind of like, what is it you really want, and creating a different norm, knowing that you are many creators. If in fact, that you can sit there and do this. Don't sit here and say, because I hate the apathy. The apathy is what I don't like. And I've had more arguments about apathy because it's kind of like, well, you ain't never gonna change nothing.
Yes.
I'm kind of like, with that attitude, you're absolutely right. Exactly. You have just prophesized your own situation. If you sit there and say that this is never gonna change, then yes, it probably will not change in your life.
Because you say what you believe, and then you behave on what you believe.
Right.
Right. And so that's the apathy allows you to
justify the BS.
Okay. So you're looking at the big thing, and that paralyze you. Don't look at the big thing. It's like somebody will say,
"Eat an elephant." Try to eat an elephant.
One bite at a time. One bite at a time. That's all you have.
That's a big ass elephant.
Yeah. just we'll chop you a little bit off, get some hot sauce, a piece of bread. The thing is that you have to do something, and every little bit counts. And if we all put our little bit into focus on relationship development.
Each one teach one is not a joke.
It's not a joke. And a village, it takes a village. It's not a joke. It's a real concept that needs to be employed. And so we're going to have to do these things to change the social norms.
Well, I'm ready.
I'm glad. I'm going to be looking for you. I think we probably ought to need to just develop our own show. I think
we can do it.
Want to mention one more time to you, remind you that May 19th, we will be putting on the Putting the Neighbor Back in Neighborhood Community Mixer at True Love Church. That's 1001 35th Street, Inslee, from 10 o'clock a.m. to 2 p.m. Danny Carr, former DA and running for DA, will be there. Jamaria Moore will be there. She's an attorney in town. She's running for a seat as a probate judge. Right, we'll have myself, and we'll have several others out there. We'll be trying to educate people on how to change social norms, give you a kind of roadmap. We'll also have a follow-up group following that. We'll register for you to sign up and participate. But I'll also be giving $1,000 gift prize away. That gift prize will include things like health club membership at Infernal Fitness. We have car wash. Yeah, Ladarius got in there.
Very
And
good.
we have car wash. We have mental health services. Brother Let's Talk is partnered with us on that. Right, we got on and on things that you can use. Right, $1,000 gift pack. I said this before. I didn't get $1,000 for Christmas. Right, so I know y'all can use this stuff. So upload your video to the NBNN Birmingham page, or it's another way of saying it is putting the neighbor back in neighborhood. Hashtag it, changing social norms. I'll get it by May 18th, midnight May 18th. We will tabulate all of the likes, and whoever gets the most likes is going to get that award. You have to be in attendance. You have to have an Hensley address. I'm also going to be doing flash giveaway, $25 to anybody in the city. I'll let you know about that. $25 to anybody in the city who uploads a video of them meeting a neighbor, someone in their neighborhood. You have to prove to me that they are your neighbor or in your neighborhood by showing me your address, their address, and just saying something that make me know that y'all just met. You get out there, get outside your box, break them social norms, or change them social norms, and get in there and the relationship develop. Like me and Isis, that's what we did. We met, and then we started talking, saying hello and stuff. God bless y'all.